Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and welcome to this future Friday where I get to talk about Obsidian Star, some that wasn't very good background about my uh, tabletop role playing setting, very sci fi, post human, all that sort of thing. And I get a chance to basically talk it out and explain the design process and maybe give some other people um, some hints about my design process and either use it or break your system and how you world build. And so this is also a world building exercise in many ways, and we'll talk about it. So today we're going to talk about Mars. So we started off our started out, of course, in the solar system. We start out with Mercury and Venus and Terra and Luna and the orbital ring around Earth. And we kind of passed by Mars to talk about the asteroid belt and asteroid families and such. But I wanted to dedicate this one to Mars because um, Mars, like so much development that I've thought of in our solar system, this is the place where 75 billion plus souls reside, maybe another 20% more that are kind of hidden away and whatnot. And Mars is a huge metropolis in this solar system. And I think something that's not very often incorporated into science fiction, either logistically or philosophically, is a huge population of individuals. And I thought, hitting that trillion population mark, I think was um, is a little bit difficult to come across, whether you're creating movies or television or describing it in books and role playing games. And I thought I'd buck the system because most of the time these kind of things are very post apocalyptic because it's hard to deal with high populations. But I thought this would be cool. Oh no, not heathen. Oh no, the cats. Oh, well, you don't you don't need to be part of the show. You don't need to be here. I think you have other things you have to deal with. Plus, you're up hella early, so well, I guess that'll wake you up anyway. So, yeah, sometimes our feline cohorts operate on their own their own schedules. All right, so um, one of the things I love to do is take I love my rule of three, and I love taking things that are on their surface and accepted, something basic in our brain accepts, part of our lizard brain accepts the existence of a thing, and then flipping it on its head. Oh yeah. Yeah, thank goodness you weren't in the bed at the time. Yeah, cats are like, yeah, this your bed, this is my bed. So, um, Mars, the god of war, right? The red planet. This is this has been in our minds as a society for a very long time, and Mars itself is such a place that um, it it has such mystery to it. We've been right and wrong about this darn planet for a very long time now, and our speculation about who lived there, what lived there, the idea of green skinned Martians and Martian canals and a face on the planet and the tallest mountain, that we've been able to measure in our solar system, and such. I mean, there's so many different things and mysteries about it, and it feels like, especially the way both government science agencies like NASA and private industries wanting to us to become a multi-planet civilization, so that just in case something goes wrong on our planet, whether we are from an external, existential threat comes to our planet, or we decide to mistakenly or purposefully just try to destroy ourselves, that if we spread humanity throughout our solar system and in the galaxy, we will still be alive as a society. And Mars kind of represents our step towards doing that. And I felt like, hey, maybe Mars in this setting is like the new frontier. And so in my head, um, I've pulled from a lot of our own societal things, the settling of the United States, and it's got some problematic elements in it. I know Mars is empty, so at least we're not dealing with that part. But I also think about our relationship with nomadic peoples from around the world and how they're getting squeezed out of their societies, and how maybe now we see in our society that we're having digital nomads and people are going back to that concept of not being attached to a physical location to live their lives and explore. And I feel like Mars kind of encompasses all that. Ooh, so funny. So, what is Mars in a science fiction location? Well, think of Mars as like red, gold, and green. Now, I know there's a little bit of karma chameleon in that, and those are very much colors of like Africa pan Africanism, which is my little bit inside to kind of make it feel a little bit Afrofuturistic, even just a little bit. But to the outsiders, Mars is an industrial powerhouse. It- Mars for Martians, the whole 9 yards. Even the idea that some people even use like little green men as a symbol of Martian unity. But there's actually something even more intrinsic to the people that live on Mars. Um, Mars is basically a parliamentary republic, and because of Mars' surface, if we think of Mars surface, we kind of think of it like, well, just like this rocky red surface, and it's not a big deal. But if we think about it, Earth doesn't have much land mass, livable space as we think of versus Mars. Earth is 70% water. We don't really, well, at least in this far future, we do live in the oceans, but as we are in our modern day, we don't live on our oceans. We have to live on the land masses that are available to us. Mars is one big giant landmass, so it's able to account for so many billions of people because there's so many places to live. And when you account for living in three dimensionality, high, very deep into the earth, high and large towers, domed craters, and things of that nature, and the ability to have post-human technology that's able to take care of so many peoples, it's crazy. So. Uh, anyway, I just have this floating here in the background, just because it's really kind of cool to see all the the missions that were here on the planet. Let's go to the dashboard here. Come on, let's go back. That shows you the current weather on Mars and things like that. Some recent images and such is really cool, and um, of course so many of these images are downloadable. They're huge. Was that 29,000 by 8,000 image? That's pretty amazing. um, so Mars is a planet that, unfortunately for the people that live there, at least when it first was settled, that you could basically live anywhere. There's nothing but an um, entire sphere of, hey, you want to go to the poles or the equator or something, there's a landmass there, and you could establish, with high technology, you can establish a place to live. And that became a problem. And that, along with the social implication of people's leaving Earth and going out into space habitats and the asteroid belt, and separating themselves from the rest of society. So when Mars was settled, the corporations and the governments and stuff said, we ain't, we're going to nip this bullshit in the bud. We're not going to let usurpers take over what we're going to do. So the moment missions were going to Mars, they set up the most important thing the society needs, and that was like banks. They set up infrastructure and banks and court systems and things like that. And so this parliamentary republic began on Earth to prevent the idea of a rebellion happening with the people. Now it's still in contention because it this operates in a general three pronged. There is a small little gnat flying around and he's bothering me. So it's set up in basically a three pronged parliamentary system. Um, the reds, the golds, and the greens. And much like this image here with the past, present, and future, in many ways, the people of Earth people of Earth, the people of Mars kind of brought some of their baggage with them to from Earth to Mars, or from Terra to Mars, and they're kind of dealing with it right now. So the Reds are kind of the coolest people. They're kind of this is where player characters I think are probably going to want to settle themselves into, but the Reds want Mars. The Reds are for a red Mars. The southern hemisphere of Mars is filled with the Reds. So who are the Reds? The Reds are um, they are frontiersmen, they are homesteaders, they are nomads, they are uh, Peruvian mountain climbers and Himalayan people and Bedouins and so many peoples from Romani and such. It is a culture of taking care of yourself, grabbing something. You got a pack, you've got a vehicle, and you just want to ride. And the people in the southern hemisphere of Mars are have embraced this travel, nomadic, tribal philosophy mixed with a lot of high technology. As a matter of fact, the going economic system down in the southern hemisphere of Mars is like a reputation one. There are places where there are geocaches where people drop off things that they found or equipment and such and replace it with others and then start to go on another journey. There are known to be the propaganda has named many of these people boulder bandits and rock raiders, where they drive around in these vehicles where they have like a turtle shell over their crawling craft and move around the southern hemisphere as just basically big giant boulders so they don't they aren't tracked and such. Yeah, Dead Man's are like nomads of cyberpunk. Absolutely. They are the best, and some would say on the outside, the worst of homeless people, right? They are castigated. They have a mixed language and philosophy, and they mix all their technologies. These people are hackers. They are engineers. They are seat of the pants individuals who also just pack up and leave wherever they want to go. And because of such the huge landmass that Mars is, literally the southern half, just the southern hemisphere of Mars, and this is me armchairing. It's probably 10 times or more the entire landmass of all of Earth, just on the bottom half that people can live in. And these individuals, one day they're a group of 50 literally walking themselves across the landscape. And then in a few weeks after that, they decide to strip all that off and explore the lava tunnels or canals in Mars. And then, you know, 5 months after that, they decide to get a caravan of crawlers and such. And these people they want to be off the map. They don't want to be tracked. They want to be anonymous. And Zeros find a lot of comfort in this. We talked about Zeros before. Zeros are people who have acquire a digital virus that erases their digital footprint. And so Zeros are very much included in this community. It's a throwback to a time where, you know, being social with individuals, and even they absolutely positively embrace a lot of the smaller but communal aspects of nomadic people all across the modern Earth, like the idea of um, 3 day. You have 3 days in which an individual, a stranger, is invited into your community, your home, and neither party will take violent action against the other for any reason. You offer food, you offer shelter, they offer stories. You come together, even if they're supposed to be rivals, even if they are criminals, even if it doesn't matter. It's just we're going to sit down, we're going to sit around a small fire or a heat source or something like that and have some time. Those are reds, and reds want to keep Mars red. Then we got to go over to the golds. Now, the golds is uh, those that are the golds are this is your corporate faction, right? So the Reds kind of represent the commune. That's one part of the parliament. They are represented governmentally, and the elders of these nomadic peoples hold a seat as representing the communes on Mars, and they are part of the parliament. Unfortunately, their delegation tends to be erratic and such because many of them have to go are ephemeral in their. They're like, yeah, we want to be part of government, but we kind of want to be left alone, and so it's very difficult for them to hold a seat. But there's so many of them. As Drew says, sorry, have been 10 minutes or so late. Is there a breathable atmosphere on Mars? Is the water openly available? How do these reds live? That's good. Now, I'm going off the idea that scientifically they have found aquifers on Mars. So between recycling water and this international, I mean, this interstellar community, it's all recycling. Yes, we're going to have to recycle and drink our own urine. Maybe not so much as deep as Dune, although I guess people living on the Reds that live on the southern hemisphere of Mars would be like the Dune people, the Fremen with the recycled suits and things of that nature. Hell yeah! But with the geocaches as well, as long as they can get to a geocache and find some food and water and resupply and drop a book, pick one up. It's that kind of thing where people will leave good supplies. Hey, we've got extra rebreathers or something. We'll just leave them here for somebody else, and that's what they do. But there are aquifers on Mars, at least in my setting, because scientists feel that there is ice water underneath. It needs to be processed, from what I understand, and so that is the thing. Are there people? No, is it a rough living? Do people die and things like? Yeah, there is that too. So, now you mentioned also a breathable atmosphere. Mars does have an atmosphere, but it's not breathable. But in this science fiction setting, there are people who have genetically modified their lungs. So instead of using rebreathers, they can breathe um, Mars atmosphere. But we're going to get into the greens because the greens have a bit to do with that. So, yeah, there has been that. And the life being hard for the Reds is a truism. So that means that sometimes they can't just keep traveling day after day. Sometimes they do have to huddle together because of the great storms. There's uh, horrible storms and such. And I'm going to bring something up about the storms as well, the dust and whatnot. So the golds are your corporate entities. These were the corporate entities that had enough money to send people there with their corporate logos, and they're just going to mine the shit out of the planet. And everything, for literally and figuratively, they've been hunting for gold, whether it's rare earth elements, whether it's biological materials or ice water or everything like that. This is your completely corporate strip mining, drilling into the soil, and with Mars having a thin atmosphere, and basically it's all landmass. There really are no place. There's really not a way for corporations, for the public to stop a corporation from landing someplace and taking over. And that, in very early on, that's exactly what they did. One corporation landed up north, the other one's like, there's no orbital defense. We're just going to land wherever we want and take over. And they did. And these corporate families, corporate communities existed. And much like the United States, in settling the United States, whether it was the gold rush, oil, railroads, coal, these mining towns are exactly like that with the golds. It's actually the, the the Gordon Gecko greed is good. The Golds have actually embraced the idea of them being called the Golds, and so a lot of them use. um, like a gold braids to adorn their uniforms or their business suits or things like that as a symbol of prosperity. And like, yeah, listen, we know you Reds don't like us, but you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for our money and our ingenuity and things like that. Are they the bad guys? Kind of, yeah, right. But on the other hand, let's think less of these corporate entities, less faceless individuals in ivory towers, and more of tracksuit wearing, Converse sneaker wearing entrepreneurs that we have today. They're more Elon and Bezos than they are. I don't know who runs Coca Cola and IBM or something. They're more seat of the pants, entrepreneurial. We need to move quick to get this resource and get it as fast as possible. And so those are the goals. Of course, the goals have a seat on the parliament. The parliament is this nebulous, ever-changing, but stabilizing governmental agency that tries to enable the and um, they don't want war to happen on Mars. So Mars being the god of war, Ares, they're trying to stop the war that could possibly happen. And this parliamentary republic is like, okay, we need to. Everybody wants to have a seat at the table. If we give people a seat at the table, that's going to prevent them from wanting to raise their fists up and want to have these big fist fights. And so that's what this is. That's what it's about. Um, so the goals are your corporate entities. We already know that. One of the horrible things about being corporate, much like the coal mining industry and the oil industry that started out very early on in the development of the states, is a lot of these mining towns had their own monetary system that kept people indentured servitude and poor because they couldn't spend the money anywhere else. So the mining towns had their own mining dollars. And when you worked, you earned that mining town dollar to spend in the mining town store for your entertainment and your goods and your toothbrush and your undies and baby formula and stuff. And you had to go to their town and you could only spend your money in their town. And the goals, that's how they've kept a lot of these people together. I haven't decided what the money's going to be called yet. Uh, I'm thinking of pulling things from ancient past, like uh, um, maybe like doubloons or ducats, because I always like the word ducats. People yeah. Anyway, it's a slang. It's an urban slang thing. With anyway, but I thought about doing that, but yeah, it's there's so many resources on Mars, at least geologically. It's kind of hard to stop the goals, and so is there sabotage between the corporate interests? Of course there is. Is there is there espionage as well? Yes. Do the Reds hate it? Of course they do. And so some of the Reds are like, we should just stick together and just kick these people off the planet. Other Reds are like, no, we have a seat at the table, and if you start getting into these fights, you're reducing our political power and stuff like that. Thanks, China. I like ducats. Yeah, it's mispronounced on purpose, kind of like the hip hop community has purposefully mispronounced the word sword in lyrics. Yeah, gold marks. Yeah, and here in this, and I'm pulling a lot of this from. Uh, I like the things to be relatable, and history tends to repeat itself. We kind of go in cycles, and this idea of like settling the frontier of the United States, that's what Mars is in this far future concept, as settling the states is there. So, oh God, but I'm here, effed up second half. Okay, yeah. Drew says my own Mars setting is pretty much just the golds. Yeah, gold rush, NFT, get rich people. Yeah, but usually they are quite tragic and fail to achieve anything. Ain't that the truth? Like, oh, there was a short-lived series called Klondike, which was about people going up into Canada. I mean, it was a dramatic it was like 3 episodes, and it was a dramatic series. I think it was like History Channel or something. That was really cool about people just, you know, they took their life savings and decided to literally physically walk up mountains, the Klondike Mountains, to one day find gold on the other side, and it pretty much didn't work out well for a lot of the people there. But yeah, there's that. Now, who are the Greens? The Greens are the ones who, strangely enough, the Greens want to terraform Mars, and they are perceived as wanting to make this Earth 2.0. And so, despite the fact that everyone knows that basically the one half the planet is just this nomadic community, it's a little bit hard to pinpoint what they're about because many of them are secretive. They A lot of them have the attitude of like, if you don't know, you don't know, right? It's like, if you want to be part of our community, you're either part of our community or you're not. But I'm not going to explain it to you. You have to take that leap, put your backpack on, get your solar powered, electric scooter or something like that, and come out with us, and then we'll include you. But if you don't know, we're not going to explain it to you. So they don't really have a face to show people. The golds, that's corporate interest. We all know what that's about, right? You got your corporate logos, you got your corporate speak, you have your tiers at tier levels and things like that. Everyone knows that. But the greens are the ecological terraformers, and many of them are actually having a lot of success in what they're doing. But many of the criticisms for the greens are that you're just trying to make Mars and the Earth, and we already fucked that up. So why are you trying to repeat the past? And which may not be true about that opinion, but turning a red planet green has a lot. It's very easy to show a lot of propaganda about that. Shai says the Greens are the ones who want to send us back to the Stone Age and watch us starve in agony. Yeah. So there is some terraforming happening on Mars. And unfortunately, the horrible part is it's being done unrestricted, under the noses of people. And everybody is like, listen, you got to take this easy. And the Greens know that terraforming is going to take a very long time. So what they have been able to do is the deepest parts of Mars, some of the deep cavities, um, canyons, crevices, fjords, and the deepest impact craters, they've been starting to turn green. It actually been turning blue a little bit by releasing aquifers to get some of that ice water up and onto the surface and flow onto the surface. So there are basically green craters that are where they've thrown down genetically created like moss and algae to start to create plants. Now, all of that sounds cool on a scientific level, but they know they need to create an ecosystem, and they've been releasing, dare I say, pests, dangerous things. So they of course, if you're going to have algae and moss and plants, you're going to need insects. And if you're going to have insects, you need things to keep the insect population down. So you might need bigger insects and worms, and maybe some birds that are genetically modified to live on Mars. And if you're going to have birds, you're going to have and small rodents. Well, you need predators and such. And somebody somewhere released these things known as blood cats, and they don't necessarily like to stay in the green areas. They've been kind of roaming around the rest of Mars, and the golds and the reds, although they don't see eye to eye, have been trying to stop this and blaming both sides. The Reds blame the Golds because they're like, listen, you're hyper focused on one thing, and we all need to stick together to live on this planet. And the Golds are looking at the Reds like, you're just nothing but outback homeless ruffians, and I bet you're hiding them, and you're the cause of it. How about you just settle down like everybody else, build a house, and and be like civilized people? So you've got the red, the golds, and the greens, and I like the idea because I tangentially, I love the idea of like a little bit of Afrofuturism. Instead, I'm thinking of it like a cultural futurism. It's kind of weird that anyone that would like to play the game and incorporate like a bit of an ancient part of society and layer on top of it some futurism, especially when it comes to nomadic living, is probably in the southern hemisphere. So I'm thinking it's a great combination of like stateside frontiersmen plus, like I was saying, like Peruvian or Colombian gaucho riders plus Mayan, warriors plus like Bedouin travelers plus like, and this weird amalgam of all of that mixed together with futurism stacked on top of it and then put in a blender and then making a good Slurpee out of it. I don't know, that horrible analogy. TA says people living on Mars for enough generations become adapted to Mars, so they Mars try to Mars forming the asteroids, i.e., trying to make them like Mars. Yes, instead of terraforming, where you try to make it Earth-like. Yes, which is so. Here, this is a. I like where you went, TA, because we live on Earth, so we would think that an Earth-like place would be preferable for us if we lived somewhere else. So if we went to Alpha Centauri, we would love to terraform a moon or a planet to make it Earth-like. But if you've been born and raised and generations on a red Mars, why wouldn't you go someplace else to make it another red Mars? And we don't see that a lot in science fiction, but these people do. Now, Drew says, I like the greens. You cannot make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Yes. And the greens have a very long-term view of what they're trying to do. So many of them know that there's a line from Andor, the Star Wars Andor series, where our best friend Luthen says something to the effect of, um, I burn my soul for a world in which I will not live to see. And so many of the Greens take it, they're like very seven generational in their thinking. Like, oh, I'm not going to see a completely green blue Mars, but I'm willing to sacrifice myself for it. Some would say you could call them cult like, and others would say that they are, they're devoted to a cause. Are some of them, could they be terroristic? Sure, why not? Uh, I wanted to point out a few little details of a thing that I will burn my soul for a sunrise I will never see. I don't know the whole it's got to be out there. Indoor blue thin. Um, it's it's got to be here. Let's see. It's got to be here somewhere. Um, There it is, Luthen's monologue. I think I found it. I think I found it. Mm-mm-mm. Where is it? Oh, that's not it. Oh shit. So somebody out there find it. Oh, there it is. Star Wars Net. My name is. There it is. Okay. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago, from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything. You'll stay with me, Lonnie. I need all the heroes I can get. What a and people want to talk about writers. Yeah, that's why you pay good writers. You give them the time to write, and you put a bunch of writers in a room to get that. Yeah. TA says the Earth is not as green now as it was before the last big ice age, and when we return to that thermal state, those massive deserts will all but vanish, and the Earth will cycle back again. Another ice age leading to massive deserts again. Yeah, we forget that a lot of the deserts were what, crushed stone from a massive ice age, if I'm not mistaken. Is all that's Drew brought that up. Yeah, sunrise I'll never see. And um oh, sorry, two things. I want to introduce to you. Um, I'm going to call it an alignment system so that you guys can start to argue at me and give me the middle finger, and give me a whole bunch of thumbs downs, which I love. But and I also want to talk to you about, this is an issue with just not just Mars, but settling rocky planetary surfaces, and I wanted to turn this into kind of a fun little trait. So uh, Mars has something known as, I remember reading this in a sci-fi series called Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars. It's a real book, it's award-winning, whatever. And they called it fines. I'm calling it, excuse me, wow. I'm calling it talc, like talcum powder. And um, the problem is that because there's very little erosion on Mars. So after all the micrometeors and impacts and things on Mars and the dust gets kicked up, there isn't any, there's no earth, air, fire, water cycle to pulverize everything and then have it settle and rise again and settle and stuff such like that. Once it turns into dust, it'll just be dust forever, which is why a lot of the rocky surface has been like really destroying the wheels of like curiosity and perseverance, because when the rock breaks and it becomes like these shards, those shards can pierce the tires, these carbon fiber tires and things and such that they've made for the vehicles. So the talc is so fine that even with rebreathers and all the sealed systems, the dust gets everywhere. So um, no matter what happens, people still have this red dust, gold dust, yellow dust. It's just it's not even dust. It's so fine that they just call it talc, and it gets in everything. Well, the people who live here breathe that stuff into their lungs, and so um, I'm thinking that there are these chambers, along with the fact that there's um, constantly sweeping and cleaning and trying to clean out the air systems and purify it and such, that there are these I'm going to call them jacuzzis, no, steam rooms, salt rooms. It's hard to explain, but there are these places that are allow the people that live there periodically to clean their lungs out, and and they get together in these places to have business deals, to um, to drink, to basically socialize. It's a confined place where people get together, and it allows them to socialize and get the fines off of their body. You have to get undressed, you have to wash, you get steamed off, you get the whole 9 yards. You got to go through. You've got the aquatic wash, you got the sonic wash, you've got the thing to get all that crap off of your body, and then from inside of your body, you do a breathing system, you take some medications, and all this kind of business. They may even have people there to pound on your back to get the stuff to come out your lungs, and it's just a thing. Well, the other side effect is that from the nose, and there's a triangle of redness that happens around people who live on Mars. So they have this, like, from their nostrils across their mouth and down around their chin, they have this red stain. And a lot of the people that are the reds have this red stain on their face. And young people have gotten into the idea of even just tattooing this red triangle on the bottom of their face and wearing symbols of just basically a badge that's like a red triangle. It also represents Olympus Mons, the largest mountain in our solar system. And so combining all that together, there's like a red Mars triangle stained face look that people have on this planet. And I thought it would be kind of I felt like it would be a fun trait to have, much like the Lunarans, who are very tall and thin, and their bodies are elongated, and they're the shortest ones are 6.5 feet, but they go 6.5 to 8 feet tall, and they have extremely long limbs and such. I thought all that would be kind of cool. Ooh, TA says, did you quote Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri earlier about corporatism? I probably did because I remember playing those old games. Unfortunately, being confused with capitalism, as corporatism is when government corrupts the business of capitalism. Yes, yes, yes. Not capitalism, corporatism. A little bit of a difference. A little. It's corporate philosophy as a government entity rather than government, rather than corporations. I know what you're saying, Mr. Anderson. It is government by corporation rather than corporations corrupting government. They've already stepped past the corrupt part, and they just created their own governmental system, which is part of, they are one arm of the parliamentary republic. So the corporate arm of the republic has rules that are corporized and they are governmentally enforced, if that makes sense. I should make a T-shirt out of that. Drew Drew's like, now, not, no, not, no, no. Yeah. Great. Now I imagine Anakin speaking of talcum instead of sand. Yes, there's a lot of talc that floats around, and from what I've listening to like science fiction and science podcasts and things like that, that actually is a problem. That going to Mars, we don't have we don't have we have yet to create a place that's so sealed that it can keep out those microparticles that are smaller than what we consider dust here on Earth. And I said, you know what? Let's make that a feature. Let's do that. Mm-mm-mm. TA says, I think I may have figured out a component necessary for a win-win solution and why it is difficult to see today. Uh-oh, here we go. The confusion of requiring a win-lose or half-lose, half-win on each party is because we see business as always being only between two parties. So win-win may be the wrong way to see it, but as so yes, the corporations to a certain effect could be considered the good guys if the reds and greens are into a lot of sabotage and hurting innocent people to get what they want. Juices, I probably would call it silt, though. See, I thought about that, but I thought people would feel like I'm borrowing too much in our own role playing community, not in a bigger sphere. That silt is related to dark sun, or at least a lot of dark sun people they know silt. But yes, I do agree. But I thought about those things. Don't think I didn't think about it. And who knows? I'm not married to it. I'm never married to an idea. But yeah. Okay, here we go. TA says, instead of a win-win-win, where a third party or more may be required to ensure everyone is getting everything they want, because you get that what we don't want in three different people becomes the wanted items of each group. Much like how to explain this? Some hospitals have made circles of I can give my kidney to someone else, but if I'm unable to give it to my own family member, I could then give my kidney to a stranger, and that stranger gives bone marrow to another stranger and such, and make a circle of win-win by doing something for a third party that, by going around the circle, ends up helping the one party I'm dealing with that where we can't agree. uh, which is difficult to do. Yeah, i.e., when win-win is not possible, find another party to join to turn a win-lose into a win-win-win. Yes, yeah. And further on, where the dynamic starts looking like a multi-pointed star with the points being each of the parties. Yep. Boop, 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 boop. Also important, one man's trash is another man's treasure, so to speak. Yep. So like you start going like, well, the corporations want to dig. They want to be lucrative and dig for literal gold, and the reds are like, you're destroying the environment, and the greens are like, well, listen, you we could come in after the golds to terraform this, which would help you greens ensure that maybe the landscape wouldn't be, like maybe that's a possibility and stuff like that. Yeah, to turn you bring a third party in that makes a triangle or star or pentagram and blah blah blah, and it gets bigger and bigger, where everyone is like, oh, if you help me and help me. Yeah, I do agree with you there, Drew. Drew says silt is a word that existed outside of Dark Sun. Sure, just like the word hit points and alignment until we stole it. Well, the term RPG, which rocket repel grenade, was taken into role playing games, and then computer games took RPG as their own, and so now the pen and paper games have had to add the TT onto the TTRPG. So it's just a flow. It's a flow of a language, and I do agree. Like Silt existed before then, but that doesn't stop people from thinking about it. Okay, alignment system. We talked about Mars. Mars has 2 moons, and in my estimation, would probably have 3 to 5 dozen habitats around Mars. In the different Lagrange points, probably a third of them, probably 1 million people or more in them, and such. Mars is absolutely positively an industrial powerhouse in the solar system. In many ways, it is Earth 2.0 in the sense that it doesn't look like Earth at all, but it is a place where people can come here to live their dreams, but it'll be difficult to do so. So if you wanted to literally get away from it all, that's where people join the Reds. They're like, listen, I've been doing all this stuff. Drew's like, damn it. It means rocket propelled grenade. Hell yeah. All right. So I haven't described to you what the game system is going to be. But I'll start leading into it. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to use Lumen with it modified, because it's going to have a drive system. Not driving like a car, but drive as in willpower. But whatever. Okay, alignment system. I like alliterations, so I like words that sound the same and come the same, whatever. So it's a 6-point system, and you can recover drive if you engage in your motivation, the thing that pushes you forward. And so you can become, you are motivated by one of the 6. Being an explorer, an extropian, an expansionist, by expertise, expression, or exploitation. Yeah, yes, I know. They all begins with EX. I don't know what. My brain just goes to that kind of stuff. So turning the cavity stone, I am returning into stone bricks. Are you referring to? Side note: I loved the idea of the turn when the scene we get our 3-point system in Andor. So in the television show, a streaming show Andor, we have the population that is very grounded. They're very earth toned, and they make these bricks, and they tell us that when a person passes away, that their body basically is they are their body is decomposed and transformed, after they are placed in ovens. They are baked like a brick, so that their body becomes a brick in the foundation of this community. Which foundation of a community, family, friends, wild, mismatched individuals that are put together, love it. And then, of course, what happens? that brick is being used to throw bust somebody in the head, which I really loved. And I love like taking a thing and following that natural thread for it to become, a peaceful thing. A death rite that to some people sounds like, oh, why would you want to put somebody's dead body in a brick? And then you realize and you look around and you're like, oh, damn, there's a lot of bricks in this community. There probably were a lot of people that are um, protecting and housing the next generation. And I like that. I love the idea of taking something like that and turning it into a cultural imperative. So where am I going with that? Um, the idea of taking a thing and on its surface it's very practical, or on its surface is very functional, but we as a society, we like to attach meaning to things because one of the hazards basically in going out into space is, do I belong? Do any of us belong out there? And what's going to push us to go even further? And a lot of that is just having meaning. Some people want to go into space and go into space travel and leave Earth behind permanently because they want to know that their life means something. They have a purpose and they serve a purpose even upon their death. And so I wanted to create this alignment system for characters to kind of say, like, above all else, this is what I'm about. So, as an explorer, and all this has to do with people, places, and things. So, you have to attach. It always involves manipulating or having an attachment to people's places and things to regain drive. And drive is basically um, the excuse that your character is still in the game. Even if your character doesn't die, if you run out of drive, your character is gone from the system. It's like losing all your hit points, but it's not. It's more psychological. So as an explorer, it's discovering new things about people, places, and things. So it's going to new places. It's finding new information. It could be discovering new locations, or it could be discovering new people and their culture. Is it discovering new technologies, or is it discovering a pathway to a new place, getting there further, faster, whatever. And yeah, all of that, and then some. Um, so that's those are explorers. Extropians is using technology to extend life. So an extropian is using people, places, and things and ensuring that they last longer. So with people, it's healing them, curing them, extending their life, healing a disease, curing a disease, injury, stuff like that. Extropians want to, for places and things that are decaying or breaking down or in danger of being irradiated or poisoned or about to be struck by micrometeorites or something. Extropians want to protect those things, continue their existence. Expansionists want to take what they have now and expand it to the rest of the world or rest of the galaxy, even. So, whatever your governmental system, your belief system, a hegemony, an expansionist wants to take home and expand it out to everybody else. Hey, my political system is going to be your political system. My technology is going to be embraced by yours. The technology I don't like, when we expand, you're going to get rid of it as well. Things like that. Expertise is getting better at a thing. It is failing at skills you don't have and succeeding at skills you do have. The failing of a skill is to learn to be better at something. So it's expertise. Expertise is teaching people new things. Expertise is navigating new places to become better at them. So corporate boardrooms. You don't know anything about business. I'm gonna learn what big business is about. What is it? Becoming a lawyer? I want to become a lawyer. Um, you want to be a red and literally walk the entire circumference of Mars, like some people have done before. Why do you climb a mountain? Because it's there. Those are expertise individuals. Exploiters you could call them the evil ones. Exploiters are exploiting the resources of people, places, and things. So if there's a resource to be gotten from people, it's we're gonna all of us are gonna work together to do that thing. and whether you like it or not. Exploiters are kind of like the evil alignment of sorts. Is there oil or gold or uranium or thorium or He3 or what? Yes. Is there water rights to be taken and used? Yes. Yeah. So exploiters, and then lastly, there's expressionists, and expressionists are getting them yourself and others, people, places, and things to express the best parts about them, whether it's through music, poetry, political speeches, memorials, things like that. So, all right, I'm done with that. Let's get to see what you guys, because I know I'm falling way behind. Oh, you go back to the fake thorn rubbers to make an entrance to a briar thorn patch into protection while leaving an entrance those who know can just push aside without harm. But to the uninitiated observer, the whole patch looks destructive and painful. Oh, talking about protecting a place. Mm-mm-mm. Dig down and hit solid bedrock, then drop spinning disc coated in diamond. Yeah, diamond, cutting thin slots 7 inches deep and say 10 feet long, coming back to cut across those every 12 inches. Then push something down between those 7 inch tall, 1 inch wide, 12 inch long fingers of stone to snap off until the top of the stone is now 7 inches deeper than it was. And you have a bunch of 1 inch thick, 7 inch wide, and 12-inch long slabs of flat stone. Talking about mining and digging and how it's done. There are some sweet, almost meditative looks at people doing jobs that are where they've perfected their ability to do those jobs. And there's some people who can split stone, and it's pretty amazing to watch it. Drew says, "Nah, life means nothing. All we can do is give it meaning. I think it would be on the expression track. I would be on the expression track, even though my depression might kill me. Yeah, I would hope that I would be on the expression track, but I think I'm more fall into the explorer extropian track, probably. Extropian and exploiters are opposites to each other, just like expansionists and expressionists are kind of opposites in a way, and explorers and expertise are kind of not opposites, but they're on opposite sides. Um, Explorers are external, whereas the expertisians, I don't know what the word would be for that, are more internal. Expertise People that are expertise want to make themselves better in some way, and then explorers kind of like want to go out in the world and see what the best things are out in the world, and then expansionists want to spread their uh, what they are about to everybody else, and then expressionists are saying, I want to tell your story and spread that to other people, if that makes sense. Mm-mm-mm. I hear you. I know when I start having the creeping in thoughts and their resistance to being overcome by thinking about or focusing on what is good or doing things to bring the good status of life. Alcar, al acetyl carnitine. God, I'm butchering this stuff. I hate it. Drew says, I prefer excellence over expertise. Excellence? Hmm. Okay. Okay. Where's my excellence? Yeah, the expertise has been embraced by a lot of other role playing games too. Excellence. Okay, I got it. I think excellence is much better. Mm-mm-mm. That's awesome. Also, lastly, I will say that the the world building. You guys know that I like this rule of three. I love triangles because triangles are both. I like the dichotomy of triangles being a very stable function of holding things up, like building a house of cards. You make little triangles and foundations, empty foundations. You can use metal beams to make triangles and hold tables up with these triangles that form a thing. And also a triangle of drama keeps the drama going because You can never have, unless all three parties all agree, which is rare. You always have two against one, and the one can always try to set up conflict with the other two so that there's always drama around the three. So I like my threes. Also, I like finding little things that are problematic or annoying and expanding on it. Much like the books and television show The Expanse embraced time lag, embraced gravity, acceleration gravity, spin gravity, zero gravity. They embraced extreme long distances when it comes to combat. They decided to have their not have I mean, magical gravity in their ships. Instead, it's through constant acceleration and things like that, embracing the problem. And I I like embracing a problem. And I was thinking of Mars and like, well, people could just move to Mars, but I'm like, there's no way there. None of us will ever become a monoculture, right? There's always going to be, every time a group gets big enough, part of that group will separate itself off and become its own thing. That's just a natural part of our society. And so I was like, well, how do you not make Mars a monoculture, but it still is unified? And so I came up with this red, gold, and green idea. And I combine it with Afrofuturism. I was like, well, what would make it? And then it got me thinking about, and I know, listen, I'm an idiot. I don't know much about the politics of Africa, but I know it's complicated. You've got tons of languages and cultures and influences from outside and inside and and that kind of thing. And me being related to it, but having no relationship to it as well, that whole dichotomy, mixing that into a chaotic slurry, and I was like, that sounds like Mars. That sound like it. As a first worlder, like the settling of the United States and Africa itself has always been considered like the dark continent, not just because of the skin color, but like what's there? We don't know what's there. It has all these resources. What are the people like? It still has mystery to many of us, even though there's people who live there who are like, it's not mysterious. We just live here, right? And I was like, Mars kind of reminds me of that. We go to another planet, how much of that bullshit we take, our baggage, are we taking with us when we get there? How many people that get there are going to go, I'm leaving all this shit behind, I'm out. Like, I'm going to rethink my whole life and get rid of all that the bullshit that people have brought here, and combine that with, aren't there going to be people who are just going to make this place a new place? So the golds are old Earth, the greens are kind of looking forward to a new Earth, and the reds are like, I'm not Earthling at all. I'm Martian. I'm not human. I am I am no longer Earthling. I maybe our people came from there. I'm Martian. I got my red face. I got my rebreathers on, and I'm walking along with about 150 other people as we travel slowly across the landscape and eat our hydroponic foods and stuff. That's it. TA goes on. Alcar is a supplement that the brain needs, and often our food does not deliver enough because of chemical imbalances, and causes depression in its many incarnations of not just depressing thoughts, but also angry and other out of control feelings. Think about that. Without someone who cared about them, etc. This boast of supplements stops the downward spiral of dwelling, if you will. I never knew that. Alcar. That dividing up and becoming is a form of evolution. Just remember that evolution produces far more instances of cancer than it does something beneficial. Yeah, it's the evolution of life, right? Like every things diverge and may not survive, but are here to do a churn to create a new life that has a greater way to develop. It's like why we don't want to genetically bring foods down to one genetic source. We want them to be genetically diverse, even if the diversity creates things that are non-edible, because we want the stuff that is edible and stuff. Yeah, in reality, anyone wondering if we are all dumb enough to go fall back down into a well once we manage to claw our way out of this one, then those people will fail. We do that all the time too. It's all yeah. The way we do is to build space habitats, mining space the way fishermen mine the ocean, over mining, yep, with nets, and then build structures that allow space elevator action to get into and out of the planet's gravitational well. Yeah. Oh, yeah, basically learning that falling into a well is bad, but to get to the goodies at the bottom of the well, build a ladder down, and then we can climb right back out when done. That's a cool. That's a good way to think about it. Learning how to climb out of a well and fall back in it. Hmm. You know, it's it's unfortunate that we as a like what is it? People are smart, but no, a person is smart, but people are stupid. I think that's the saying. Um, where what is it? It's in, let me see if I can find that quote. Um, oh, Tommy Lee Jones said that. Man, yeah, a person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. Yeah, that's a quote. Yeah, Men in Black. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Also, we tend to think that we're smarter than we think we are too. Um, lastly, before we get out of here, crawlers, things that rovers, Martian rovers, rovers on the moon, rovers on these all the kind of things. I thought it would be kind of cool to have um, RV life in space. I think would be kind of cool if the rovers had these detachable orbs. So the orb, you live in the orb, whether it's a small one, like a 2 to 4 person one, all the way to ones that are like orbs that are have 3 levels in them, 5 levels, huge, big, small, whatever, and they fit inside of a harness with rover wheels on it to move them from place to place to then have those orbs be a unified size to be moved into these grapevine living establishments so that nomadic people or when the storms hit flow around Mars, that rounded objects will be impacted less than ones with sharp edges, so they can make their homes into these domes. So the crawlers can actually become a digging device underneath it, dig down into the dirt. When they get covered over with the dust and sand and stuff, it's not a big deal because it's just a big dome because half of the orb is above. So the one half that's above is just a lens of sorts, convex lensing. And then when the crawler that's in the orb that's in the harness can crawl its way back out and keep moving. So, and I was picturing living establishments like grapevines where these orbs get attached to it, and the grapevines can kind of like flow over or hang, flow, attached to walls. They can be on towers and things like that. Visually, man, I got to do some artwork. I haven't done that a lot. Drew says Freud had written about the psychology of the masses. People in larger groups become emotionally driven. They do. That's where the mob mentality comes from. Take a look at any highest level of sports. See what the fans do, and you got mob mentality. Hey, we won. Let's flip over a police car. Hey, we lost. Let's flip over a police car and burn couches. You know what I mean? People get dumb. Freud did not take into account the potential of a field independent personality type person causing a disruption of this emotional mass hysteria so that we can break that cycle as a populace. Well, there is that too, right? Yeah, yeah. It's a generalization. It's what causes the dynamic that allows breaking out of the rat utopia experiment. Yeah. Collapse of a culture of humans living in similar conditions. Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard about the rat utopia. It's pretty dark. The rat utopia experiment is where they a person decided to prove if they gave rats, if you put humans in a utopia, would they prosper or would they die off? And unfortunately, the rats died off if they were when they were given all of the food, all the protection, all of the space that they needed, and they died off. Yep. If all humans in a rat utopia situation are field dependent, then they will fail the way the rats did. But a few independent personality types will break that, so they ascend to an even higher state of plenty beyond the utopia. And and we're going to get into one of the problematic issues of posthumanism, which I love, is that uh, every generation, human society it becomes easier, and there is a push for people to do we want to become soft like in Wally, or do we purposefully create um, um, scarcity of some resource, whether it is reputation or money or housing or food or protection, purposefully create scarcity to challenge ourselves, to make ourselves rise above? Is the goal a utopia where we don't have to do anything, or is the goal to create a world in which we are always striving to do better? I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is until the rats evolved to become both sentient and sapient. So if we fail, they will inherit the earth and put us in their own rat trap. Like you've been experimenting on us for years. We're gonna put a stop to this. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here and just even being part of the conversation, even though you're just like, what do I have to do with this? You have a lot to do with it. I'm going to change expertise to excellence. I like that. I thinking about it externally made me think like, yeah, I think it's a better use. Thank you there very much, Drew. I appreciate it. By the way, guys, as well, thank you very much for being part of the show, for bringing your excellence here, for being very creative. Ah, thanks. Thank you very much. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, scarcity is not even a need if we have plenty and become relaxed, we tend toward escalation, like making artistic infused furniture to replace utilitarian furniture. The unbridled expression of art, I think, would be very useful for us as we go into the future. Because most artists are starving artists. Let's be honest. There's very few people at the top, and the need to survive makes those artists not express themselves. So it would be pretty cool to figure out like what would a society be that basically tells you that you must express yourself. I don't know. One of my lights went out. But anyway, guys, have a so he says, you're going to have the most intellectual sci-fi game in history. Don't blame me. Blame you guys. Dead Man, who basically got me on this role, because remember Dead Man. This was 7, 8 years ago. Fuck, it's been a long time. Dead Man knows, but we were doing these Eclipse Phase post-human videos, Future Fridays, for a long time. Somebody actually shouted out to me and said they really love those, but it started that way. And I love science fiction because I love speculating about human society and our behavior and things like that, where it goes. And like Drew mentioned, growing pains, right? You got to break eggs to make an omelet, right? Who's the broken egg, and who gets to eat the omelet? Yep. When I hear this, thanks for keeping me awake and occupied while I wait for my comforter to dry. Oh man, thank you. It says you're not a starving artist if you never try to make money off of it. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's awesome. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for indulging me. I really do appreciate that, because I sometimes I have a lot of chaotic thoughts in my head. Not quite ADHD, but you know, we're all creative types, and sometimes you get an idea in your head and you're like, "Fuck, get it out of there," and you guys let me vomit it out. So thank you very much. So anyway, have a great one. Getting ready to head off to work. Shai says, yes, your Eclipse Phase videos from back in the day were thought provoking, but when I found out Eclipse Phase is actually a combat heavy game, it lost a lot of appeal to me. And it wasn't the combat heaviness of it, but it is a heavy system. I mean, mechanically, remove all the fluff, and you still have a. They fixed it, but fixed it a little too late. We'll take you on there. Yeah, happy ending of another slice of eternity. Peace and tranquility.